Okay, so get this. Over 70% of learners in developing countries, they rely on YouTube for educational content.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about it, right? So today we're going to take a deep dive into how YouTube is really revolutionizing education.
It really is.
Yeah, and we're going to be focusing on this article called The Benefits of an Educational YouTube Channel, Transforming Learning Through Digital Media,
Okay.
to really kind of get a better grasp of just how much of an impact it's having.
Oh.
So, I mean, that 70% statistic, that's a pretty huge number.
It is, yeah. And I think it really highlights that accessibility factor, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about who can afford the most expensive textbooks anymore,
Right.
or, the most expensive courses. We're talking about a global classroom
Yeah.
that's open to pretty much anyone with an internet connection.
Yeah, so you could be in a remote village. Maybe, you don't even have a proper school, and suddenly you have access to the same quality of education as someone in like a bustling city.
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
It is pretty powerful. And it's not just about location either.
Right.
Think about all the different learning styles that are out there, the different needs that learners have. YouTube caters to all of that. You've got visual content lectures, interactive simulations.
Yeah.
I mean, there are even entire courses that are built around gamification.
Oh, yeah, gamification. That's a good point. I remember when I was in school, I would struggle to stay awake during history lectures.
Huh.
It was just so boring. But then I stumbled upon this channel called Oversimplified.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
And they take these historical events and explain them with these hilarious animated videos.
I love that.
And it completely changed my perspective on learning.
I bet.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And I think that's a perfect example of how YouTube creators are using all these different techniques
Right.
to make learning more engaging. They're not just like delivering information, they're creating experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got channels like Crash Course, Khan Academy, TED Ed,
Oh, yeah.
all using very different approaches to keep learners hooked.
It's like having your own personalized tutor who can kind of adapt to your specific learning style.
Right.
I know for me, I'm a visual learner, so those animated videos were a game changer for me.
Totally.
I could grasp concepts that I just could never get from reading textbooks.
I think we all have those subjects, right?
Uh-huh.
Where it's just like, how do I make sense of this?
Totally.
And that flexibility extends beyond learning styles too.
Yeah.
YouTube fits into any schedule you can learn during your commute,
Right.
on your lunch break, whenever it works for you. Like having this world of knowledge that's available 24/7.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that makes it so appealing to lifelong learners like myself.
Absolutely.
You're never too old to pick up a new skill,
Right.
dive into a new subject. I mean, I recently learned how to code through a series of YouTube tutorials.
Wow.
Something I never thought I'd be able to do.
That's awesome.
There it is.
Yeah, and I think it's so amazing to see how these channels are empowering individuals to kind of take control of their own learning journey.
Right.
You're no longer limited by the constraints of traditional education.
Yeah.
You can explore your passions at your own pace. You can delve into these really niche topics.
Yeah.
You can even connect with experts in the field.
Oh, yes. Speaking of connecting with experts, one of the things that really fascinates me about these educational YouTube channels
Yeah.
is the sense of community that they foster.
Oh, for sure.
It's like having this global study group that's accessible anytime, anywhere.
It is. Yeah. It's incredible to see people from all over the world
Right.
coming together to discuss ideas, share resources, and support each other's learning.
Yeah.
There's this real sense of camaraderie
Yeah.
and shared purpose.
There's another aspect of educational YouTube that we haven't even touched on yet, and that's the potential for multidisciplinary learning.
Oh, totally.
You might start out watching a video on photography, and then you discover a link to a channel on history, and then another one on music theory.
Yeah.
It's like falling down this rabbit hole of knowledge.
That is one of my favorite things about YouTube for sure.
Yeah.
It encourages exploration and it helps you make connections
Right.
between these seemingly disparate subjects.
Yeah.
You might start with one topic and end up discovering a whole new passion that you never knew you had.
Totally.
It's like this giant web of interconnected knowledge.
It really is.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible.
And it's not just about consuming information either. YouTube empowers people to become creators themselves,
Oh, yeah.
to share their own knowledge and their own passions with the world.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately.
Yeah.
Anyone with a message and a camera
Right.
can potentially reach a global audience. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. It really democratizes that whole idea of education.
Yeah.
It's not just about top-down learning from these established institutions anymore. It's everyday people, sharing their expertise,
Right.
their perspectives, their
Right.
unique insights.
Yeah, like I was watching this series on astrophysics,
Okay,
and the host was this amateur astronomer.
cool.
He had built his own observatory in his backyard.
Wow.
It was incredible. He wasn't a professor or anything, but his passion was so contagious, and his explanations were so clear that I learned so much from him.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so exciting about this whole shift in education.
Yeah.
It's not about credentials.
Right.
It's about this willingness to share knowledge and the ability to connect with an audience.
But with all this information out there, how do we navigate it effectively?
Right.
I mean, there's also the potential for misinformation.
Yeah, that's a critical point for sure.
Yeah.
YouTube, like any platform, it has its share of challenges.
Right.
I mean, the sheer volume of content can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And there's always that risk of encountering information that's inaccurate or biased.
So how do we as learners develop the skills to kind of critically evaluate what we're seeing online? Is that where digital literacy comes in?
Absolutely. Digital literacy is becoming more and more crucial
Yeah.
in this age of information overload.
Right.
It's about more than just knowing how to use technology.
Right.
It's about understanding how to find those reliable sources, how to evaluate evidence, how to recognize bias.
It's almost like we need a whole new set of skills
Yeah.
to navigate this digital landscape effectively.
Yeah.
Skills that maybe weren't as emphasized
Right.
in those traditional education systems.
Exactly. And it's not just about being a discerning consumer of information either.
Right.
Digital literacy also includes the ability to create and share content responsibly,
Yeah.
to be mindful of your online footprint, to engage in respectful dialogue.
So in a way, these educational YouTube channels, they're not just providing knowledge, they're shaping how we think and interact in this digital world.
Precisely. They're modeling good digital citizenship. They're encouraging viewers to be critical thinkers, responsible content creators, and engaged members of those online communities.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay.
Wouldn't you say there's a risk that all this online learning could lead to further social isolation? I mean, people are spending more and more time glued to their screens.
That's a valid concern for sure.
Right.
And I think it is important to strike a balance, between online and offline interactions.
Yeah.
But I would argue that educational YouTube channels can actually be a force for connection.
Really? How so?
Well, like we've talked about those communities that form around these channels, right?
Yeah.
People are connecting with others who share their interests. They're engaging in discussions. They're collaborating on projects. It's creating this sense of belonging and shared purpose
Yeah.
that can really transcend those geographical boundaries.
It's like those channels are creating these virtual spaces where people can come together and learn from each other.
Exactly.
Almost like a modern-day salon or a coffee house discussion group.
I love that analogy.
But on a global scale.
Yeah, and it's not just about passive consumption either.
Right.
A lot of these channels, they encourage viewers to take their learning offline,
Yeah.
to apply what they've learned in real-world settings to connect with others in their local communities.
It's like they're bridging that gap between the online world and the offline world.
Yeah.
Encouraging viewers to be active participants in both.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool.
It is. It's really cool. And I think that's what makes this whole phenomenon so fascinating.
Yeah.
We're witnessing this real evolution in the way we learn and share knowledge.
For sure.
It's challenging those traditional notions of education and creating new possibilities for connection and collaboration.
I agree.
So I'm curious to know, where do you see all this heading in the future?
Okay.
What's next for educational YouTube? Well, I think we're going to continue to see this blurring of the lines between entertainment and education.
Okay.
The content is going to become even more engaging and immersive, incorporating new technologies like VR and AR.
Oh, wow. Like imagine learning history by virtually stepping into ancient Rome.
Right.
Or dissecting a frog in biology class through augmented reality.
Exactly.
So that would be amazing.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
And I think we'll also see more personalized learning experiences,
Okay.
Tailored to individual needs and interests. Algorithms are going to play a larger role in curating content and connecting learners with the resources that are most relevant to them.
So it's like having this personalized learning pathway
Yes,
that kind of guides you on your educational journey.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see a greater emphasis on lifelong learning as well,
Okay.
as people increasingly seek to upskill and reskill throughout their careers.
Mm.
YouTube is going to become even more important
Yeah.
as a resource for professional development and personal growth.
It's like having this continuous learning loop
Yes.
where you're constantly expanding your knowledge and skills to stay ahead of the curve.
Precisely. And I also think we'll see this growing awareness
Yeah.
of the importance of digital literacy.
Mm-hmm.
It'll become an essential skill
Right.
for navigating the online world, not just for learning,
Right.
but for participating in society as a whole.
So it's like we're entering this new era of education
We are.
where learning is no longer confined to the classroom. It's happening everywhere all the time.
Yes.
And it's driven by curiosity, passion, and technology.
I think you summed it up perfectly.
Yeah,
It is an exciting time to be a learner,
it is.
and I can't wait to see what the future holds for educational YouTube.
Yeah, it really is mind-blowing when you think about the scale of it all.
Yeah.
You know, millions of people around the world are learning, connecting, and growing through these channels.
Yeah, it's really a testament to the democratizing power of the internet,
Right.
wouldn't you say? I mean, we're moving away from this model where knowledge is, gate-kept by these institutions,
Mm-hmm.
and we're moving towards a much more open and accessible system.
I agree. It's like we're breaking down those traditional barriers to education and creating a much more level playing field for learners everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important for us to be talking about this, to really understand the impact that this is having on society.
Right.
It's not just a trend. This is a fundamental shift
Yeah.
in the way we learn and share knowledge.
It challenges us to rethink what education even means.
It does.
It's not just about memorizing facts and figures anymore.
Right.
It's about cultivating curiosity,
Yeah,
critical thinking skills, a lifelong love of learning.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think educational YouTube really embodies that spirit perfectly.
Yeah.
It's about empowering individuals to take ownership of their own learning journeys,
Mhm.
to explore their passions, and to connect with others who share their interests.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder,
Okay.
a question that might spark a new learning adventure.
I like it.
What are you curious about?
Yeah, what are those topics that you've always wanted to explore,
Hmm.
but maybe you never had the time or the resources?
Because chances are there's a YouTube channel out there waiting to guide you on that journey.
I bet there is.
Maybe it's a channel on ancient history or astrophysics.
Right.
Or maybe it's learning how to play the guitar or speak a new language. Whatever it is, don't be afraid to embrace your curiosity.
Yeah, dive in, explore,
Yeah.
and see where your learning journey takes you.
That's what it's all about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of educational YouTube.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation.